Resolution 1, authorizing the city manager to enter into a 36-month contract with Flag Safety for additional automated license plate readers, known as ALPR, not to exceed $90,000 for the contract, $30,000 for fiscal year 2025, 2026, $30,000 for fiscal year 2026, 2027, and $30,000 for fiscal year 2027, 2028.
Good evening, council, again. And I just first of all want to say thank you for letting us come back and have a discussion on this. It's very important that we try to get this moving with the flock. And as I promised from the last meeting, I have a representative from Flock. I'd like to introduce Lily Ho, the Public Affairs Manager, sitting to my right, and she will be going over a presentation. And just like I promised last time as well, she should be able to answer any other questions I wasn't able to last time. So, thank you. Lily?
Thank you, Chief. Hello, City Council members. Hello, mayors. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for having us. I am Lily Ho. I am the Public Affairs Manager for Flock Safety, and it's a pleasure to be able to talk about our products. We have a brief presentation. I hope that, oops, this is not, well, it's fine. It says Shasta County, but I might have sent you the wrong one. My apologies. It should be similar. Okay, no problem. I didn't realize that that was going to be the one. Okay. I think a lot of your questions may be answered in this presentation, but after the presentation, I'm happy to respond to any additional questions that you have. This is the clicker, correct? Oh, correct. Great. Terrific. Okay. About Flock Safety, we started as a license plate reader technology company. It was started by our CEO, Garrett, and our first customer was his neighborhood. His neighborhood was seeing an uptick in burglaries, and he provided his police officers with footage from his Ring cameras. And they basically said it wasn't really useful. There were no leads around it. And he looked into it and learned that license plate reader technology has been around since the 70s. But it's never been done in a way where it's been affordable. The hardware wasn't necessarily there. And he has a technology background, and he sought to create a better device for license plate readers. And here we are. His first customer was his own HOA. And since then, we found that law enforcement, there was a demand for it in law enforcement, specifically because recruitment, retention, and retirement challenges are nationwide. And this tool provides a technology that helps reduce the time it takes for police officers to investigate cases, because we are able to provide them with an objective, actionable piece of evidence, from our license plate readers. Police departments are turning to technology as a force multiplier nationwide. It's not just license plate readers, but other things as well, and radios, as you guys discussed earlier. 70% of crimes have a vehicle involved, and we are trusted in over 6,000 communities across the country. Our hope is that we can help police officers do a better job without replacing them. Now, the license plate readers, what are they? They are a device mounted on a pole about 12 to 14 feet high, and it's focused on public roadways, and they take photos of license plates. They operate 24/7 with solar power and a battery backup. They are at a fixed location. They do not track vehicles continuously. And the pictures are specifically a time and a place and a location. We provide an objective, actionable evidence that enables police officers to be more effective. Like I said, 70% of crimes have a vehicle involved. And when a vehicle is involved in a crime, your officers can upload a license plate or a vehicle description, and you would be alerted within seconds after the vehicle passes by one of our flock cameras. For law enforcement, we're also integrated with real-time alerts from the FBI and CIC database, which has stolen vehicles, NCMEC, which is the Amber Alert, and custom hot lists that your own police department can create. Our system is not connected to the DMV. They do not hold any personal, PII, personal identifiable information, and we do not write traffic citations. This is an image of a picture, very standard of what our cameras would take here in Livingston. It is the rear of a vehicle, and it has the license plate number, the make and model of the car can be identified. Again, they do not take pictures of the driver. There is no facial recognition, there's no traffic enforcement. And what's special about our technology is we also have something called a vehicle fingerprint. So in the situation of a crime, the victim may not remember the license plate number, may not even see it, or maybe they will only catch a few numbers, not the entire plate. And maybe it was an O or a 0, it's unclear. But the victim may identify it was a red truck with a bike rack. And those are identifiers that you can put into our system that can that would also bring up, you know, a red truck with a bike rack. It also comes with night vision, so these are photos that they work at night as well. Again, they're solar-powered devices. All of the installation and maintenance is included, along with permitting assistance. We want this to be a very light lift for cities. Our devices also include data storage and lifetime hardware and software upgrades. And we're built with privacy in mind. We take privacy and data protection incredibly seriously. First of all of the data is owned by the city of Livingston. You will own the data. You get to decide who you want to share this data with. We will never actually provide access to your data without your permission. Additionally, we don't have any personal PII, personalized identifiable information, but we do treat it with the seriousness as if it does. So we are, all data is stored with end-to-end encryption, FBI CJIS certified, SOC 2, SOC 3, HIPAA, and everything else. We like to say that we're more secure than most of the city halls that we come speak at. After 30 days, all of the data is wiped, and that's the standard 30 days. And you can choose to have that extended beyond 30 days or less than 30 days. But it is up to you, how long you would like to store the data. This is a transparency portal that comes also free of charge with our product. And this is a public-facing information page for your stakeholders. It includes who you're sharing with, their prohibited and acceptable uses, the sharing agreements with other agencies. It's also customizable. You can link to your department policies as well. We are also a software company where we have created additional features to ensure more compliance. So in the state of California, there is no sharing with federal agencies. So in order to ensure that there are no mistakes or accidents that are made by your law enforcement, we have just blocked it off entirely so that there is no option for you to accidentally share with federal agencies. Additionally, we have included search filters. In the state of California, you're not allowed to search for immigration or reproductive health reasons. And so when the request is made for searching of a vehicle license, your police officers may include the case numbers and a reason for the search. And if anything around immigration or reproductive health comes up, nothing will come up. We're really proud to have some really great trusted partners, and this includes Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, NCMEC, which is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Our products have been able to solve over 1,000 missing people and over 100 missing children. We have also had the endorsement of the NAACP in Oakland. The NAACP identifies our product as something that reduces bias because we are giving your law enforcement an objective piece of evidence. And we're in over 400 law enforcement agencies across the state of California. And in it, we're routinely solving crimes. In this situation, this was an arson case in Ukiah. After a fire was sparked, our cameras identified a vehicle that was near the fire as it started, and police were able to make an arrest. This one is an attempted kidnapping in Fairfield. Teenage victim someone tried to drag her into a vehicle. A passerby intervened and identified the vehicle, and the description of the vehicle was put into our license plate reader cameras. And within hours, we were able to locate that vehicle and the suspect. Silver alerts are pretty common. In this situation, someone went missing after church, and we were able to track him as soon as he re-entered the country. He trailed off into Mexico and came back, and as soon as he came back, he was able to be assisted by the police and reunited with his family. I'm going to turn it over to the chief if there's anything that I didn't cover, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that. So again, a lot of good information there. I think there were some things that I didn't hit on last time, but like I said before, Lily is here to answer any questions that you have. I know I've wanted to also thank a few that I've met with and taken the time to educate yourself as well. So I appreciate a couple of the council members coming in and doing that.
Thank you. Council, at this time, do you have any questions?
I have some, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
Chief or whoever. The plastic covers that people put over their back license plates, this system still reads that. It doesn't protect them, correct? They think it does, but it does not, right?
Yeah, so you're talking about the plastic cover that people put over. So unless they have some kind of obstruction on it, yes, we're still able to read that. It does depend, however, though, if the glare catches the light on it perfectly, it can be unreadable or partial, I've noticed, but for the most part, we can still read it.
And then my other question, Chief, would have been, we had a report about a white Toyota, I believe it was, that hit a couple parked cars in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I remember seeing that posted. The flock camera would not have been able to identify that, would it, or would it? Who could the police at this level, could you have put in that white time frame and gone back and looked for that vehicle that supposedly hit the parked cars here in town? I forget what street it was on, but.
Yeah, no, that's actually a perfect scenario that you come up with that we did have. Depending on where the cameras are, currently we only have 18, so that only has about 9 areas, because you figure there's 2 cameras to each area, so 19 is really only 9. Currently we have most of our ingress and egress within the city. We don't have any in residential areas, but officers could run that vehicle for a specific time frame. But if it didn't go through one of our areas where we have the cameras, they might have not had any luck on that. So we would revert to any kind of personal cameras, any kind of Ring doorbell cameras, things like that, or surveillance is helpful. And I think that's where one of the leads came from, I believe.
From a Ring camera?
Yes, from a Ring camera, correct.
Thank you. One more question. The presentation mentioned an audit usage. I would strongly support to the council that we set up some sort of a audit of this. Maybe once every 60 days, somebody be able to audit it with the chief, just so we know, and have a presentation if the council would be interested in something like that. I have no other questions.
Yeah, just to add to that, so as Lily was talking about, there is a citizen portal that we'll be utilizing. We're currently in the process of setting that up for the citizens, where it actually talks about who we share the information with currently, which I showed some of you that. I think currently we're at about 210 other agencies that we share with that are local municipalities and counties. But yeah, that will be on that portal that they can look at, and I think if you want to elaborate on that a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. You can post your audits on that transparency portal, and at whatever frequency you would like your policies to. The audit information would include, so the audit trail lives forever. The data, the photos are deleted after 30 days or whatever it is that you choose to use. But the audit trails will live forever. So in that information is what was searched, who searched it, the reason for search.
Another question, I was reading some recent articles in regards to some new laws in California where the state of California, and then maybe you can correct me, and I'm not sure if you know, or where the new laws that were recently passed in the state of California that actually prevent agencies or anyone that uses this system to share information with any federal agency.
Correct. That is correct.
So that would be an additional, I guess, safeguard, at least in California. I'm not sure about any other state, but I know, I think
Yes.
there were two recent laws passed.
Yes, that's correct. So other states can share in, but we cannot share out. And there is no way that your police officers can accidentally share to a federal agency. We've put in the specific guardrails for the state for all of the customers within the state of California. We fence them in so that there will not be any accidents. You guys will not be in trouble.
Okay.
If I can also add on that, so I am the administrator for the flock cameras, and currently we have a 50-mile radius. Anything beyond 50 miles we will not share with. They do not have access to it. A good example, if we were to share with that, would be like, for example, LAPD, if they called because they had a kidnapping suspect, they had a plate that came back to Livingston. If they called, they would have to talk to me directly and give a reason why they want it, and then I could approve it at that point. But we do not share beyond 50 miles right now with agencies.
Okay, thank you. Council, any other questions?
Thank you, Chief, and really appreciate you coming out. I read through the whole thing. The only thing I did not get, what does I think it stands for National Crime, but what does NCIC stand for?
So that's the National Communications Intelligence Center. So that's basically the search. If we do any kind of search in our database, any kind of hits for missing, stolen vehicles, that type of stuff.
So if NCIC, using the acronym that you said, reported a stolen license plate, stolen vehicle, I should say, it would come into your system that would alert one of our folks here?
So as far as on the flock system you're talking?
Yeah.
So if there's an alert on that license plate, yes.
Be it Amber Alert or whatever it happens to be, stolen
Yeah,
vehicle.
if there's an Amber Alert for child, or like she talked about Silver Alert, which is for,
Or Silver Alert,
Yeah,
which
correct.
I'm quickly approaching, but,
Yeah. So yes, those hits do come on. I know that over the last 2.5 years that we've had Flock, I've been here, gosh, almost 28 years now, and in my 28 years, there's been one officer that's obtained the 10851 California Vehicle Code PIN, which is a certain number of stolen vehicles, and just in the last couple of years, we've had a couple officers now obtain that award, with the assistance of the Flock.
okay, and this is hypothetical, okay? Say, you said we have a 50-mile radius, beyond that, we don't share information. I mean, we do, but it would have to go to the chief for approval or over, right? Is that
Yes,
correct?
so currently, like I said, I'm the administrator for that. I am in the current role as interim. Once my time is done with that or
But
is
whoever the
extended,
administrator is would be responsible, I mean, as far as the chief.
yes, they are the ones that allow, the scenario I gave is anybody beyond 50 miles, then, they need to call and pretty much have a specific reason for that. And we can set the limits on that. I chose 50 miles because I think that was just kind of within our county and a couple of the counties over.
Now, I'm going to show my age. There's a fictional city in Green Acres called Hooterville. Say it happens to be 38 miles from here. They request the information. What keeps them from handing that information to somebody else?
Answer that. Yeah, I can answer that. There is no daisy chain. So Livingston may share with that town, but that town does not share Livingston's to anybody else.
Is there some sort of state or some prohibition for that?
It is just the technology. It doesn't share beyond.
Okay, but, all right, say that I'm calling from Hooterville, and I get that, and I say, give me this information, vehicle, you send it to me, now I have it. So who becomes who has the data now? Does it still reside on you, or do they actually have a copy of it now?
No, so they're able to view our cameras. The data still belongs to us. Now, they could, if we went scenario-wise, they could take a picture of the Flock camera and send it to whoever they wanted. But each agency and on the Flock itself, there's parameters, there's policies, like we talked about earlier with our citizen one that we'll have our policy on there. Every agency has a policy that they're not to share that information. It's kind of no different than if I run somebody's license plate or a driver's license number and I have an agent from another agency sitting next to me, they could pretty much do the same thing if they wanted.
No, I'm really concerned about who's the custodian of the data, The Flock says they don't have it, or they don't have access to it. You do it, you send it to them. Now, in which format do they receive the data?
So they're able to view the data themselves.
They can actually view the camera.
Yes.
Data.
Yes, correct.
And
Which
then-
is the license plate or the vehicle. Now,
Right.
that officer, that agent that just checked it and sees the physical photograph, they now have to run it in their CLETS, which logs it. For instance, if somebody was to use it for the wrong reasons, that would be through their database, through their system, such as you mentioned, Whoville. They have their own databases and they can be searched and audited. That'd be on them. We would not give them the registration, the owner's information, their address. That would be on them to do their own check through their own database, not
Okay.
through ours.
And then it was also mentioned and said that now you're at 51 miles. They don't have access to the data anymore because they're outside of the radius.
As far as the sharing goes, I did.
Now, if somebody at 51 miles, another city, says, hey, Livingston, we need this, what information do we require before we give them that data?
So right now, there's really nothing set in stone. I know for me, myself, they're going to have a crime that's been committed. So if they have like a robbery, and it does show the reason for the search, even the agencies that are within 50 miles, 38, 40, I can go back and audit why they looked at our camera. There's a case number, as we mentioned earlier, anytime you do a search, There's got to be a reason, a case number, or incident attached to it.
Yeah, and we do require that, right? All three or
Yes,
four?
correct.
And it is in our policy.
Yes, they would have to have a legitimate reason to ask for our cameras and access to them.
And when they requested, is that request saved somewhere? Hey, this agency made that request?
Yes, it has a date and time that it was requested. I can also remove the agency. So if I feel that an agency really doesn't use it or they just need it at the one time, we can also remove them at any time.
Okay, and okay, well, thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you. Thank you, council.
Council, are there any more questions in regards to this item?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
no questions for Chief or our rep who came out here. Thanks for coming out here and sitting through 2 hours of procurement before we got to this. I do have some information I'd like to present. If it's working, I prepared some slides on my perspective on this, and it looks like it is. I would like to say, again, thanks to Chief for meeting with me and answering a lot of my questions on this. I had some similar data concerns that were mentioned. I think a lot of those have been answered. However, I have fundamental issues with this technology being in place and other technology being in place in our country. And I kind of want to run through that to explain why I feel the way I feel. I don't believe in surveillance as a tool for crime prevention and or solving. I believe it to be an infringement of Fourth Amendment rights that protect against unreasonable search and seizure. I would wish to see, and I don't think we have the capacity to do this at a city level, but I would wish to see much stronger approaches to preventing crime, namely fixing socioeconomic conditions in communities, larger levels of investment in people and not capital. And I know we can't do any of that, but I say that to provide some insight on my perspective and why I feel the way I feel. I would like to run through what I believe is mass surveillance in our world and what this kind of contributes to, just to paint a perspective for the mindset that I'm bringing into this. And Monica, if you can go to the next slide, please, and I'll relate some information. So mass surveillance generally is widespread monitoring of an entire or significant portion of a population, which is often conducted by governments or corporations who then collect and analyze that. We have huge levels of surveillance in America, not just by governments, but by corporations. If we could go to the next slide. So this is not just happening, but it's actually legal. After the Patriot Act was passed in 2001, there's a specific section, Section 215, which allowed the federal government to collect on a daily basis phone records of millions of Americans. This is phone calls that you're making, the conversation, the time you called, the person you called, when it was dialed, when it was received. And it's my understanding that this data has been being collected by the federal government for the last 24 years since this act was passed. I believe that to be a huge infringement of the Fourth Amendment. And Monica, if you can go to the next slide, please. There was actually a whistleblower who blew the whistle on some of these mass surveillance programs that the United States government was conducting by the name of Edward Snowden. He's a former staffer at the National Security Agency, the NSA, revealed mass surveillance that was occurring as a result of the Patriot Act. He was charged for espionage by the government for this, has since then not been able to come back to the country. However, and if we can go to the next slide, actually, there was supposed to be something else in there that I didn't add. This was brought to federal courts. There's court documents on this where a court found that this is a crime by the government. They are not allowed to be spying on us in the manner which they are, essentially vindicating Snowden's claims. But the surveillance continues at a federal level. Now with big tech, this was mentioned last time we were having this discussion about our phones. The tracking that's done by Samsung, Apple, Facebook, Twitter, any corporation that you pick. And it's almost this idea of, oh, this is already happening, so it's okay. To me, it's none of this is okay. Not only should the United States government not be spying on us, but these tech companies should not be spying on us. This data should not be allowed to be collected. It is an infringement of Fourth Amendment rights, and people should not be constantly spied on. But there is not only a normalization, but a strong hunger at a public and private institutional level to know where we're at all times, who we're talking to, how we spend time, and then to sell that data. And I know Flock's not doing that specifically, and I really appreciate the information you presented on them. However, I do feel like this normalization is not okay. I don't believe in a world where that exists. And this is a report where our Federal Trade Commission identified a lot of these issues that I put out here. Monica, if you go to the next slide, please. There's an organization out there called dflock.me. It's people who likely feel the way I feel. They track Flock surveillance cameras around the country to make sure that people know that they exist in their communities. I didn't know they existed in Livingston until we brought this item in June, which I did vote for. By the way, I did vote for an approval of these cameras at that time. And they feel like it's important to track these cameras nationally. And if we can go to the next slide. This is a clip of Flock CEO discussing this organization, dflock.me. And I would really appreciate if we could play this at the timestamp of 12:40.
Can one company help eradicate
Yes, ma'am.
most crime in America in just 1 decade? That's
And if you could, really quickly before you play that, for the record, this is in response to a question of how the CEO feels about this organization.
law. And then unfortunately there's terrorist organizations like DFLOC, whose primary motivation is chaos. They are closer to Antifa than they are anything else. And that I think is unfortunate because we don't want chaos, or I don't want chaos.
And can we pause
I
right
like
there,
law
please?
and order. I like a society that has a
I know that was a little low, but essentially the CEO said there are terrorist organizations like DFLOC who want chaos, and they're closer to Antifa than they are. And so just a couple points. I think that's an insane comment for somebody in that position to make. I don't consider this to be a terroristic organization. I actually think it to be an organization that promotes public transparency, that people know they're not being spied on. Obviously, he has an incentive to say that, given that they threaten his business model, but it definitely rubbed me the wrong way to hear that from the person that's in charge of running this company at a national level. And if we can go to the next slide, please. For the sake of time, I'm not going to ask that this video be played, but I encourage you to go check out this Forbes interview yourself if you'd like. There's a clip from the CEO in this same interview where he's talking about how there's already 100 different forms of surveillance, so what's the issue with having Flock? Again, I think that's a big problem that we have 100 different forms of surveillance. Why are we normalizing that? Why is it okay for us to constantly be tracked? And I really want you to consider the mindset of the person that is pushing this out at a national level. If we can get to the next slide, please. So these are examples of Flock being weaponized, and I do want to be clear here. You are going, the same way I can present these is the same way that we can present success stories. The reality is that there are going to be humans that make mistakes, that may abuse this technology, and then we're going to have people like Chief Ramirez who legitimately want the best for the city and want to be responsive to our residents and make sure that we can solve crimes. But I'll explain my rationale for including this a little bit towards the end. This is an example from the city of Denver where there was a lady who was accused of theft because of information that was found by Flock cameras. It turns out she wasn't even at the place where she was accused to be at the time, and she had to prove her own innocence. Thankfully, she was able to provide information on where she was and why she didn't do what she did. But I'm of the opinion that an innocent civilian should never be put in this situation, especially not through surveillance. If we can go to the next slide, please. This is a quote from the person that handled this in Denver. Quote, "You know we have cameras in that town. You can't get a breath of fresh air in or out of that place without us knowing." Again, this is not going to be the mindset of every officer that touches this. I'm not accusing this to be the mindset of the officers in Livingston. It's just something to consider when enabling this level of technology. If we can go to the next slide. Here's the police chief who tracked his ex-girlfriend 164 times using license plate cams. Flock has a huge database. They have a huge network around the country, and this theoretically is something that's possible depending on who is approving the usage of data and who's looking for it. And if we can go to the next slide. Another example of someone convicted on stalking charges through the use of flock cameras. There is strong potential for weaponization of this. And I strongly ask that you consider that before moving forward and coming to a conclusion on how you feel about these cameras being in town. If we can go to the next slide. Would like to present the Fourth Amendment because I do think there's constitutional issues here. I'm not aware of any specific lawsuits where Flock or any public agency that's implemented Flock has been sued on Fourth Amendment grounds. But the first line is clear. The right of people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. And the reality is that when we have these cameras around town, we are tracking people that have not done anything wrong a lot of the time. Even if it's not being weaponized against them, even if we are doing everything right on our end, it is tracking, it is surveillance, and I do think that crosses the bounds of an unreasonable search. And if we can go to the next slide, which is the last one. This is more of a philosophy than anything. I don't expect the rest of the council to take this on, but this is something that I truly believe. We don't have to use the number 100. I'm open to a different threshold there, but quote from Benjamin Franklin, "It is better to let 100 criminals go free than to imprison one innocent man." And I think that is so relevant to the conversation of due process, of individual liberty, especially with the way that due process has been torn apart by the federal government today. I am not comfortable having technology that is actively tracking all of our citizens. I think it enables a mindset and a concept of surveillance that has been implemented, again, institutionally at a public and private level across the country. I'm not comfortable with any of it. So it's not just about Flock personally within the city of Livingston. It's about the concept of surveillance as a whole to address issues in society and to potentially just profit off of. Again, not saying that's coming from you, but the concept that exists. It's something that frustrates me deeply. I can't control what's going on at the rest of the country. I cannot control our state or federal lawmakers putting better systems in place that may prevent crime in the first place. But I do have a say on whether or not we have tracking of our own citizens in town, and if we enable some form of surveillance. And for me, this is a lot more ideological than it is practical. Chief, again, I want to reiterate the fact that I don't have concerns with the way that you specifically are going to use this technology, and I have no evidence of the fact that PD has weaponized this technology at any point, but I have an ideological stance against surveillance. I don't see it as a solution to our problems, and I will not be supporting the resolution tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Council, are there any other questions before I go out for public comment?
Yeah, thank you for your share, Councilman Uppal. I really appreciate it. You and I are aligned in a lot of ways on this. I always say the old example of years and years ago, I can't remember the exact date, I let my brother use my car. He was in LA, ran a red light. That's fine, it's not right, but it happened. It took a license plate of the car, which was registered to me, and had a photo of the driver, because the car, it didn't care who the driver was, it only cared who was registered as a vehicle owner. I get a ticket in the mail, and I looked at it, and I sent a copy of my driver license that says, I am not the driver. They wouldn't buy it. They said I have to come and prove there. So, but that means I had to prove my innocence. Not that they had to prove that I'm guilty, but I had to prove that I'm not the driver when they wouldn't even accept my driver license compared to the photo. To me, technology can be abused that way, and that goes into proving that you have to be innocent, not, you have to prove you're innocent, not necessarily prove you're guilty. So I do have concerns with those kind of things. Now, this one, I don't know. I do question a lot of, should we do that, and does somebody have to prove they're innocent? I don't know if a single license plate is going to be built on the entire case. You can't say that crime was committed and here's a vehicle. Well, there was a fire, unless you see a video of somebody doing it, you could have 5 cars drive by that place. Which of the 5 cars started the fire? I don't know, it makes it hard to prove sometimes. So it does have a little bit of it that way, because they're not really using the photo of the driver. So I'm not sure which way I'm gonna go on this. I am a technology person. One thing for Chief, this settings, flock isn't the only system out there. There are others. I believe there's Ricotta and there's others that do the same thing. They don't do that? Only Flock is the only one?
There are others, but no one near as good as
No, I understand.
Ricotta is just a security camera.
Yeah, thank you, Lily. Yeah, but what the point I was trying to make, Flock system has the safeguards. They're subject to the Senate bill, says data can't be shared and all that. But Chief, do you know if other systems are restricted to the same?
So the flock system, one of the biggest reasons why we have the flock in Livingston is because it integrates with our Axon, which is our body cams and our vehicle cameras. So it's the only system that integrates with that. If you look at Ricotta, like she mentioned, it's surveillance. Vigilant does not communicate with their Axon, so that's one of the reasons why we have the flock.
No, the question I was asked is, are other systems subject to the same rules?
I'm not sure about other systems. I know as far as as Mr. Moran was talking about, the surveillance, I know that's all across the board, so I'm sure any other systems such as Vigilant is under the same guidelines.
All right, thanks, Chief.
Yes, sir.
And this is really, really difficult to do that. And as a comment to, and again, to Councilman Uppal, you're right. Facebook, Google, everybody's tracking us. I don't know how many of you guys gone to a supermarket or something, if you don't set your security settings straight, all of a sudden you get something pop up on your phone and say, Walmart is having a sale, you just happen to be in Walmart, because they know exactly where you're at now. So, but those are private companies, so I don't know what we're gonna do. So, I don't know, I'm kinda conflicted on how I'm gonna go with this. So what I would like to hear from our other council members, and the mayor, of course.
Mr. Mayor, may I?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Councilmember Uppal. I appreciate your presentation. I completely disagree. I think the flock system should be maintained in the city. It's proved its worth. I'm comfortable with the way it's being handled here in the city. I see no abuse. I don't consider it an infringement on my rights, because they got to have a reason to look for that, my license plate. So, no, I would be 100% in supporting this motion to approve.
Thank you. When we first started thinking of the first time to install these cameras, I was the main supporter. And I think since then, it's been demonstrated that has been very positive to the outcome that these cameras have had. And, you know, we can go into details as to, and then again, I don't know everything and every case that these cameras have been used in to solve potential crimes. But, you know, it's, and I do appreciate the presentation and you know, the perspective that some people might be normalizing, you know, being, I guess, watched in everything we do. I do agree with you in not agreeing that it's that technology sometimes is used the wrong way. But you know, it's cell phones. I mean, you provided some examples of how this could be used the wrong way. I mean, just like with cell phones or guns or, you know, even Ring cameras. But I been you know, trying to put in a balance, you know, the benefits, the pros and the cons. And although I do agree with you on not being a supporter of how certain agencies use certain technology, and you know, just thinking about our small community of Livingston, I think I would be more inclined to support this, and because it has shown positive results. Is there a risk of, are we concerned about, you know, how this technology might be used improperly? Yes, of course. You know, I think all of us can agree with that, and I think that is why we're here tonight. Otherwise, we would have either approved it or not approved it last time. But, you know, just, I think there's some safeguards there. It's probably not going to be perfect, just like with everything else. You know, I just saw some flock cameras down 140 driving to Los Baños and Gastin. I didn't even knew they were there. Lowe's, Home Depot, Amazon, FedEx, they, you know, actually I'm not sure about Walmart, but probably, you know, they have them or not, or they're probably using the made in China ones, but, you know, I'm just joking, but, you know, I think at this point I will be in support of this item to approve additional cameras to be installed, but at this time I would like to go out for public comment. And is there any public comment on the phone in regards to this item, 9:30? Hearing none, coming back into the chamber, is there any citizen comments in the chamber in regards to this item? Yes, you can come up to the podium, please. And if you can state your name for the record again.
Yeah, my name is Patricia Zamora. Yeah, this was a very interesting conversation, and I really appreciated Councilman Uppal, you taking the time to present another perspective, because in the times we're in, a lot of different perspectives are, there has to be a place to have different perspectives, to be able to find a better solution for our community. So that was intriguing to me to see that. I've never seen that before, and I do appreciate that. As a citizen, I think when I come to these meetings, it's also, you know, in my heart that we're here working together, and we have to listen. I want to listen, and I have mixed feelings about this also, living in Chicago and in San Francisco and bigger cities where a lot of things are such at a big level. And you really see how when people are more and more disconnected, when they don't know their neighbors, when they don't know people in their community, how that really causes a lot of harm. And I think I'm not against technology, it's also always how it's used and to what purpose. So it's not so much to give a comment, because at this point, you know, there's a lot of pros and cons either way. But I do agree that it cannot be a substitute for community connection. Cameras will never connect us. Walking down the street, I was a club member, a Boys and Girls Club director in San Francisco. I worked in the Tenderloin, which is one of the most, if you go into San Francisco, you walk through the TL, it's a very, very high concentration of crime. So every day when I walk through, and I live right in the neighborhood, some of the ways I kept safe is, and in Chicago, I worked in the Pilsen, which is also a port of entry for immigrants. Some of the best protection was actually the kids, even the kids that were in the street life. I didn't even know they would be protecting my car, because they knew that I was trying to do something in the community with them. And same thing in the TL, you know, you have to be, we're not naive, but I do feel like, you know, when you walk down the street, even in a big city, we knew people who ran the local supermarkets, the families. If you needed, we had a program where if you felt unsafe, the business would identify places where it's called Safe Haven. We started a program called Tenderloin Safe Passage Program, all resident-led, where you would train parents and so forth, young people around safety. So I think it's not if or, but if it's, we can't just rely on it for that. So I would really underscore what you're saying around how are we investing in the people so that we can do better together.
Thank you. Is there any additional citizen comments in the chamber? Seeing none, closing the citizen comments on 9:34, bringing it back to the dais. Council, are there any other questions, comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
Mayor Pro Tem, when you got that ticket in the mail, did you make your brother pay the ticket because he knew it was your car and you lent it to him?
Well, just for clarification, he saw the frustration in me, and he wrote a letter that says he's not the driver I am. But
Wait, you're saying he's better or you're better?
no, he actually knows the wrath of the older brother. And he says, no, I will send a copy of my license and I will take care of it. So I didn't have to actually drive to LA, but that's what they wanted me to do.
Yep. Thank you. I just couldn't resist that. I had to get it in. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion and that we approve this item.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Wallace. Is there a second? I'll second it. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Councilmember Uppal.
No, but I would like to add that if council decides to approve this item, I do request that we continue to engage in rigorous audit of the cameras. No.
Take care of it. So I didn't have to actually drive to LA.
Is it Jason?
Hello? Is there someone on the phone? All right, roll call.
Councilmember Wallace.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Semmer.
Boy, I'm really conflicted on this. Well, with strong reservation, yes, but I will add that we have a strong audit.
Mayor Moran.
Yes.
Motion passes by a vote of 3-1.
Thank you. Next item